Hey everyone. So are you considering looking into becoming a real estate appraiser? If you are, here are 3 things that I wish I knew when I first got into this career. Hey everyone, my name is David. I am a real estate appraiser trainee, and I've been in this industry for a little over 4 years. Now in this video, I want to share with you 3 things that I wish I knew when I first got into this career, and things that I know now that I didn't know back then. First thing, it is important to know that there are generally 2 different types of appraisers. In real estate, the 2 main common appraisers are going to be residential appraisers and commercial appraisers. Generally, these are the 2 main categories. An appraiser will provide an opinion value for a property, and that can either be a residential property or a commercial property. Now with residential properties, you may be familiar, such as your homes, your duplex, your townhomes, your condos, and commercial, that is a whole nother umbrella. Some examples of commercial properties are multifamily, retail, office, industrial, and there are so much more, but those are just some of the main ones. Now the reason why I wish I knew this when I first got into this career is because most people, when they look into appraisal, they don't realize that appraisers, you can either work on residential properties or commercial properties. And because of that, that will actually change how your training is going to look. It's going to change what your education is going to look. It's also going to change what your workflow is going to look like. So try to figure out, what do you like to do more? And if you want to look at the differences of residential commercial, here are just a couple of differences that you might want to consider when you're looking at either going to residential or commercial. I do want to make this clear that this is my personal experience and I'm just a trainee. I don't have my license yet. I'm working on getting my license. I finished my education to get my license, but I'm still in the process of working with the state to get certified. With that being said, here's my understanding of what a residential appraiser does. I don't want to get too detailed because it can get really complicated and that might be a topic for another video. But from my understanding, residential appraisers will generally appraise homes. And when it comes to appraising homes, it can depend. With homes, you're working on determining the value of a home. And when I was working in a mortgage company, the general appraisal fee from the mortgage side that we would charge to the borrower would be about $700. And that was when I was working in a credit union. Now, that's what the mortgage company charges, that's what the bank charges, but appraisers, they get a little bit less of that. It also depends on the complexity of the property. Complexity is a whole different subject. Some key points for residential appraisers is that residential appraisers will, how do I say this? The turnaround time for those properties or for those reports, I'm not familiar with this particularly, but I believe that residential appraisal reports generally take less than a week. The fees are generally less than $1,000 per job, and it can be more depending on the complexity of the property. But from my basic understanding of not being in residential appraisal, the fees are generally not a lot. It's less than $1,000, and the reports don't take 2 to 3 weeks to write. With that being said, that's why generally residential appraisers will work on more appraisals per week, per day, per month. You kind of get the idea. You're going to be doing more appraisals to make up for your income. The thing is, with residential appraisals, it's also heavily impacted by the residential market. So if there's not a high supply and demand, or the interest rates is causing people to freeze and not want to buy properties or sell properties, or worried about selling their home and moving to a new home, right now, just to be very frank, is that I'm looking on forums and Reddit posts. It's tough out there for residential appraisers, and that is because it's highly competitive right now. And in competitive, it's not about getting into the career field, but the competitiveness is part of the bidding. And so this is something with all appraisal assignments. Mostly, if you're going through an AMC, which is an appraisal management company, they're kind of the middleman between the appraisers and the banks. But basically, when you're an appraiser and you want to find work to do, you would generally contact the bank directly, or you'd be on a panel, or you'd be one of selected appraisers for an AMC. The AMC has their rosters of appraisers, which could be you, or could be your team or your company, and they'll pick the appraiser that's either the most qualified, that has the most experience, also is able to do the job in the fastest amount of time and the cheapest. So when I say competitive, it's because a lot of appraisers are reducing their typical fees that they would generally charge for assignments, and they are charging much less, and they are turning around much faster. And so they have to do that, otherwise you're competing with other appraisers that are doing the same thing. There are more residential appraisers than there are commercial appraisers. So that brings me to my second point. The second point is For me, my personal experience is that I finished my college degree. I got my bachelor's degree in business management, so I thought I was done. I got my college degree, I go out and I get a job. This is not the case. With this career field is that depending on if you want to go to residential or commercial, depending on the level of designation that you want to get or the certification that you want to get, this is why I said it is important to know if you want to go into residential or commercial. And it kind of ties into the second point, because the second point is that there's a lot of education required just to become an appraiser. You need to take classes to become a trainee, and then you need to take classes to become certified, and then you need to take classes if you want to get your MAI designation with the Appraisal Institute. So there are hours you need to invest afterward on the weekends to study. Now, depending on if you want to go into residential commercial, the amount of studying, the amount of classes, and the requirements are much different depending on residential and commercial. Now, with residential, some states do not require that you need a college degree. Now, with certified in Oregon, where I currently work at, I am required to have a 4-year degree. Great, I got that done. Going for commercial, getting certified to become a certified general appraiser that is licensed to appraise commercial properties, I have to do an additional, I believe it's over 270 hours of coursework. I also need to prove that I have over several thousand hours of relevant assignment hours. So I need to have a job log, an hour log. I need to take classes, and these classes are not just, they're not just you take it online, you click the next button. No, you gotta take these classes online, or you can pay for them and go to a location in class. This whole class thing, it's just, I can say a lot about it. With these classes, you can take them online, you can take them in person, you can take them virtually and log in at a certain time along with the instructor. The point said is that once you take these classes, generally you have to take an exam. With these end of course exams, they generally have to be proctored. What does it mean to be proctored? I didn't know that until I got into this career. Being proctored means that you need to take your exam and there needs to be someone watching you, make sure that you don't cheat or go online and look at the answers. So I took most of my state certified classes through the Appraisal Institute, and they went through Pearson VUE, which is a proctoring exam testing center. You schedule a time, you give your ID, you show them that you are who you are, you go at a certain time, and then you sit in this room with a bunch of computers in a very closed environment with a bunch of other people taking their classes, and behind you is a mirror room. Basically, there's someone behind you in a glass room with cameras everywhere. This is not important detail, but basically there's cameras above you, there's cameras in the corner, just to make sure that you don't cheat, and there's someone in the glass room that can literally look at you and your monitor, and also look at their monitors that is recording what you're doing and what everyone else is doing on their camera. And if they catch you cheating, that is going to...
right to jail. Believe it or not, jail.
Well, I've never cheated on these exams, so I don't know what happens, but I assume it's not good. So don't cheat. That just shows the, not severity, but the sense of how strict and how serious these exams can be. Now the exams that I've taken, they're not hard. You just study a lot for them, and then they're generally 40 questions, 50 questions, and they can give you an hour, 2 hours. The point is, to get into this career field, my second point is what I'm trying to get back to, is that there is a lot of education and time that you have to invest after work and on the weekends for your classes. Now, what classes you need to take, that depends on if you want to go into residential or commercial. And so, if you decide to get into appraisal, you might want to consider, do I want to be a residential appraiser? Do I want to be a commercial appraiser? Now, I need to look at the education requirements. I need to look at how much hours I need to log. Remember, for commercial appraisal, the classes are going to be much different than residential. For residential, you're taking classes specifically tailored to appraising residential properties. For commercial appraisal, you are going to be taking classes that are tailored to appraising commercial properties. And because commercial properties, there are multiple types. You have industrial, office, retail, multifamily, so much more. The classes are difficult, they're longer, and they make you take more classes. So with that being said, those are the two main points. This last one, this is not a deal breaker for some, but for me, it was definitely something that took me a while to get used to. When you become a appraiser, you have to drive to the property, take pictures of the property, you have to meet with the clients and take interior, exterior photos. You're looking at the site, seeing if there's any mold. You're not doing super in-depth analysis. which is like, you're measuring the humidity of a wall. You're not going under crawl spaces. See, I can make a different video next time of what goes on during inspection. Driving. The point is driving, because to get to a property, you need to get there. And most people get to a location, A to B, is via driving.
Wow.
And if it depends on what areas you're covering. If you're just covering a small area in your metropolitan area, which is like a 1 hour radius driving, then that's not the worst thing in the world. But if, for example, you're covering the entire state, sometimes you're covering 2 states, the drive, the amount that you could potentially be driving is a lot. And so, for example, I had to drive down to Southern Oregon to take a picture of a property, and that property was just dirt. It was a proposed site for multifamily. I've done Southern Oregon for a proposed site for multifamily, gas stations, basically dirt. I'm driving 4 hours one way down the highway over 400 miles to take pictures of dirt. If I don't do it, who else is gonna do it? Now, sometimes the inspections could be a little more interesting. Sometimes you could be doing a multifamily inspection, industrial inspection, whatever property type you're appraising, you could be inspecting that instead. You can meet with the clients, meet with the brokers. That's not important right now. My point is, be prepared. With residential appraisers, because they're doing more reports, they're driving more often. With commercial appraisers, because they generally cover a larger area, they might be appraising less properties, or they might be driving less frequently, but the distance that they need to drive sometimes can be a very far drive. So you need to incorporate either a hotel stay into your inspection trip, or you just gotta be prepared to drive long hours. Some people driving long hours, they love it. I personally have mixed feelings with driving. I used to suck at long drives. I'm not saying I'm a bad driver. I'm just saying that my endurance to sit in the car in one spot and then just eyes on the road, just dealing with other people on the highway.
I turn now. Good luck, everybody else.
Dealing with slow drivers, fast drivers, trucks, semi-trucks, and then dealing with the curves on the road. It's a lot. It's not like driving to work. When you drive to work, you've done it bajillions of times. You've done it so many times, you're literally on autopilot. But when you're going on the highway or you're appraising a brand new property, you're going on unfamiliar roads. At least in the beginning of your career, you don't do this very often. For me, I usually work in the area. My commutes to work are less than 30 minutes. And I'm fortunate that way. But in this career, definitely my tolerance for driving has changed from when I first started. Basically, what I just want to say is that be prepared to drive long hours, depending on if you want to go residential or commercial. Just be prepared that driving is a very important part of this career. Now, some people love driving. They like to take their family with them. They like to visit new locations. They like to try new food. That's all great. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, who would get sleepy on long drives, who would get aches, body pain on long drives, it definitely took a while to get accustomed to. And for my inspection trips, I generally have my wife goes with me, give me snacks, keep me entertained so I don't fall asleep on the road. I make a trip out of it. It was tough because there are times when I had to drive. Now, I would leave at 7 and I wouldn't get home until 7. And that would be because of the long drive. Not all drives are that bad. Sometimes a drive can take up to 8 hours, sometimes 12 hours. What you generally want to do is, if you're inspecting a property that's far away, you try to get some jobs that are along that route, or you want to try to get multiple jobs clustered in that area, or you trying to line up your inspections all into one day, so you're hitting A, B, C, you're hitting all your spots, and then you're done. Anyways, you gotta get back to work. So there you have it. Those are just some things that I wish I knew before getting to this career, and I just wanted to share with you all. I just want to say thank you for watching, and good luck in your appraisal career, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.